implementation and impact. We appreciate the continued trust-based dialogue with government, in particular MOFPET, on how to make our partnership still more effective to the benefit of all Ugandans. And this brings me directly to the priorities that Denmark and the government of Uganda has agreed to focus on in our partnership. Denmark's current portfolio of over 670 billion shillings aligns, in my humble view, perfectly with Uganda's vision for a green, sustainable and inclusive economic transformation. In fact, more than 60% of our budget from the Danish embassy side is dedicated to green economic transformation. Looking at this new budget, we see three perfect intersections where Ugandan strategy and Danish support meet. First, private sector investment for green agro-industrialization. We strongly welcome the budget's focus on unlocking private capital for sustainable agriculture. Here, public investment transparency is key. Without deep transparency and accountability in public spending, private capital will look elsewhere. Going forward, we will strengthen our focus on trade and investment in partnership and in line with government priorities. The second area is youth, skills and jobs. Economic transformation is impossible if young people are left behind. Uganda needs a healthy, a skilled and empowered young population. Denmark investments in youth empowerment, sexual and reproductive health and rights and economic opportunities match with the budget focus on youth, such as digital transformation as a catalyst for youth employment. The third area I want to highlight is accountability and fiscal discipline. We applaud the Ministry's focus and the government's focus on enforcing strict fiscal discipline, including the new accountability charter for accounting officers. Strong financial management is the single best tool for building investor confidence. Speaking of investor confidence, we must remember that a thriving civil society, academia and independent media are crucial to holding all of us accountable and making sure that government, but also development partners for that matter, deliver on their promises. This goes for the budgets as we discussed today, but it has broader relevance. A thriving civil society making sure government institutions deliver on their constitutional mandates remain at the core of any society. Erosion of the rule of law in one policy area cannot be isolated. It will undermine confidence, increase the cost of capital, and ultimately deter domestic and international investors if principles of rule of law are compromised. In other words, unlocking investments require much more than numbers on a page. Let me conclude. Uganda embarks on its fourth National Development Plan in an entirely new development landscape, characterized by declining development financing, intensified geopolitical competition, fragmentation of global markets, global energy crisis, and potentially we're looking into an El Niño climate crisis in a few months. As Uganda navigates declining external development assistance and rising costs of debt servicing, the country faces a historic choice. Uganda has the opportunity to transition from a spending state to a financing state, one that aggressively mobilizes domestic resources and uses smart blended finance to de-risk and unlock private capital, a state that pursues strategies that deliver cheaper capital, such as concessional debt rather than expensive domestic lending that crowds out domestic financial markets, ultimately reducing financing for key sectors such as agriculture, and one state that delivers government services effectively without leakages. Every single shilling must deliver value. Allow me to conclude with 3 brief calls to actions for everyone here today. First, view this budget, as we do, as an open invitation. Let the private sector treat these fiscal provisions not as a government text, but as an active invitation to invest. Secondly, strengthen the economic teamwork. Let government, the private sector, civil society, and development partners collaborate to turn budget lines into real businesses, real jobs, and real incomes. And thirdly, and very importantly, ensure no one is left behind. Let us all guarantee that economic growth meaningfully includes women, youth, and local communities. Ultimately, the success of this budget will not be measured by the trillions of shillings allocated on paper. That's all great. But it will be measured by the number of investments secured, jobs created, and Ugandan lives permanently improved. Denmark and Team Europe remain fully committed to walking this path with you in partnership, and I wish you fruitful deliberations and a successful dialogue today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those remarks. A more vigilant round of applause for the Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, and for the reassurance of the commitment from the Danish government as well as development partners for support. That one is always a good one to hear, and the fact that he spoke of so many things, but I've been able to capture something that I think we should be able to capitalize on and share, especially for the young people in here. Information is critical, and access to this information sure does so much in ensuring that access to funds is also improved. When that happens, the questions that many young people ask themselves about where, how, when, which, what, can no longer be asked at that point. The onus at that point in time shifts to the young people to be able to use the available resources in order to move forward. Seed capital, where does it sprout from? Venture capital, mezzanine financing, if you are to create the kind of enterprises that will transform the country going forward. I will be inviting our moderator very shortly, but before I do that, allow me acknowledge the presence within us of gentlemen, the Chief Accounting Officers, Egesa Anthony from Budaka District. Oh, thank you very much. Muchunguzi Eli, Rwanda. Muchunguzi Eli, where are you? Ah, there he is. Thank you very much. Rose Kebirunji from Shema District, local government. Bruno, beg your pardon, Nawoya Bruno, that is Madi Okolo. I hope I got that right, especially with regard to pronunciation. Many times, those are the pitfalls of our trade. Opio Moses, Abim District. Thank you. Timothy Koliang. Timothy Koliang, Nabila Tuk. Isabella Ndahura, that is from Jinja. Abdallah Awuye, Kanungu DLG. Abdallah Kawuye is with us here, but I think should be Wambi Richard, Deputy CAO, Ajumani District, local government. Thompson Obong, Yumbe District. We also have with us development partners, Vina Genet from the Royal Danish Embassy, Martin Mohereza, Royal Danish Embassy. Of course, we've heard from our keynote speaker, Ambassador Speed Spurry, Francis Waswa, UNDP. Many thanks for making time. Dafin Babiri, IMF, as well as Juliana Nachiwanda from the Embassy of Japan. Interesting there. Juliana Nachiwanda, thank you for coming through. Members of Parliament present here with us. It's very important that we have some members of Parliament who are with us. Honorable Peggy Joy Wako, the MP for the Elderly. Where are you? There you are. Thank you so much. Honorable Chitio Patrick, Kapchora Municipality. Are you here with us? There he is on the extreme end, that is on my left, as well as Honorable Katoko Sylvia Damba from Kibuku. Thank you, Honorable Members of Parliament, for ensuring that you are here with us. Earlier we had our Executive Director, Julius Mukunda, lamenting that some of the invited officials might have absconded on account of the tough questions that would come to them. I'm glad you are going to brave those tough questions for us, and we shall be looking forward to the answers and the solutions that are here with us. Morrison Rakakamba, Chairman Emeritus, Uganda Investment Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for that gentleman as he comes through. He's one of our finest thinkers on public policy as well as investment and business. When he speaks, we listen. When he moves, we also move. I hope when he sneezes, we catch the flu.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much, my brother Higenyi, for the flowery introduction. But I'm excited to be here. And when Julius asked me to come and chair this session, or moderate this session, it was exciting for me to return in the game, because now I'm permanently a farmer. So for a farmer to get this platform, to engage with the honorable members and everybody of you, it means the budget is going to the grassroots. So having said that, and without much ado, I take this opportunity to invite our keynote speaker, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, who's going to be represented by the Director of Budget, my brother Hannington Ashaba. A round of clap.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison Wakakamba, and for the warm welcome. Good morning to all of you. First of all, I need to register apologies from Dr. Ramadan Govi, the Permanent Secretary, Secretary Treasurer, who is unable to be with us this morning because he's attending to other important duties, mobilizing resources for this budget. The expenditure was done, but we need to mobilize money. So he requested that I take on the mantle of delivering this key note address at this important dialogue organized by civil society. So let me start by recognizing the heads of government institutions who are here, and the moderator has introduced them singularly, so I will not repeat. The ambassador who was here, the ambassador, and members of the Development Partners Group who might be here. I recognize all of you. my colleagues from the Ministry of Finance, Director Economic Affairs, Mr. Kagwa Moses, and all senior colleagues from Ministry of Finance who have come, but the rest of government, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I also had my apologies, Mr. Moderator, the honorable members of Parliament, I recognize you. I would like to thank CS BAG, who are our long-term partners, as you heard from Julius Mukunda, and Accord, for organizing this important dialogue. We are partners under Budget Transparency Initiative, and largely what they are working on is a partnership. So we are also part of the organizers of this event as part of our budget month. So the theme, which I'm going to speak about, is unlocking investment and economic opportunities within the budget for financial year 26-27. And it resonates, it's really consistent with the theme of the budget, which is full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. The two are really close, and as I will be showing you, I think to a larger extent, the budget has tried to allocate resources in that direction. So this budget marks the second year of implementing the fourth National Development Plan, NDP4, which is the first plan to operationalize the 10-fold growth strategy. And as we all know now, because we popularized this to a large extent, this strategy aims at expanding Uganda's economy to a $500 billion economy by 2040. That's the hallmark of the strategy. Therefore, the budget for financial year 26-27 has been prepared at a time when Uganda is moving towards that direction. But also, the country has built one of the strongest foundations for socio-economic transformation on our continent, as the Minister also emphasized in the budget speech on 11th of this month. And just repeat a few of these hallmarks. One, the country has sustained long-term economic growth above 5% despite repeated global shocks, and you all know them. There have been some episodes of shocks, but we've been resilient. Two, we have now surpassed the lower middle income threshold of United States dollars 1,136, because our gross national income per capita now has reached USD 1,420. That's another hallmark I thought I would highlight to you. Three, we have recorded exceptional external sector performance. And over the last 5 years, exports of goods and services have increased by over 204%. But just recently, the total export earnings reached 18.04 billion United States dollars in the 12 months to March 2026. And this was a jump from 5.9 billion the same period. So these things are happening, at least from the macroeconomics, and I thought I would highlight them so that it gives a context to our discussion this morning. But we have also built critical infrastructure that supports investment and competitiveness, and I will highlight to you how even in this budget we continue to do so. We have established a sound foundation for industrialization and private sector growth. Therefore, the budget for financial year 26-27 builds on that strong foundation to further provide a wide range of opportunities for all players. And I will dwell more on that by demonstrating what these priorities are. So what are these priorities? To begin with, the budget for 26-27 is a bigger budget. I think Mukunda and the Deputy Ambassador mentioned that. It's a bigger budget, but it's just not merely the size. It also has a bigger goal, and therefore brings bigger opportunities, especially for the private sector. Some of these opportunities arise from the continued strong macroeconomic fundamentals, as I said, and I will highlight again our projections in the next financial year and medium term, but also provides government business opportunities and also household business opportunities. And I will provide additional highlights on these opportunities shortly. But allow me again highlight a few of the macroeconomic issues. And it's a debate I've had with Julius that sometimes we concentrate on expenditure and forget these assumptions underlying the budget, which I think an audience like this benefits from to give them a better and broader context. The budget for financial year 26-27 projects continued stability and buoyancy of macroeconomic fundamentals, which I believe provides a conducive environment for investment. For example, growth is expected to accelerate 10.2% next financial year, from now 6.4 to 10.6%, with GDP increasing to more than United States dollars 75 billion. Now we shall be a $75 billion economy beginning next financial year. And that's a big jump. This will mark Uganda's first return to double-digit growth since the reforms of the 1990s. Most importantly, a large economy will create more jobs, raise household incomes, expand opportunities for business, and generate the resources required to invest in quality education, healthcare infrastructure, security, among others. 2, we continue to maintain price stability. Our inflation remains low, and as you all know, low inflation protects household incomes, supports business planning, and strengthens investor confidence. So that is consistent, again, with the theme of our engagement today. Exchange rate stability. Our shilling remains one of Africa's best performing freely floating currencies and is projected to remain so in the next financial year and the medium term. And as you all know, this has helped us, although there are debates around it, but at least evidence is indicating us that this policy stance is conducive, especially for growing economies like ours. It's conducive for exports, tourism, FDI, portfolio inflows, and remittances, all that we are seeing exhibiting an upward trend. Growing investor confidence. Our economy remains one where investor confidence remains steadfast. For example, evidence has shown us that Kampala-based startups attracted United States dollars 30 million in the year 2025, up from just United States dollars 4 million a year before. So you can see such trends. This surge signals growing confidence in Uganda's innovation ecosystem and affirms our emergence as a destination for entrepreneurship, technology, and investment. Now, overall, the budget for next financial year prioritizes areas, and these areas which we need to prepare the private sector to tap in, because they are lucrative, are 4+1. The 4, we now know them. We call them the ATMs. And the ATMs include agro-industrialization, tourism, mineral-based industrialization, including oil and gas, and science and technology and innovation, including ICT. And then +1 are what we call their enablers: continued investment in infrastructure, transport infrastructure, electricity, industrial parks, etc. Here is how private players might tap into the opportunities that are likely to emerge out of these strategic growth areas that the budget for financial year 26-27 has allocated money. One, what I call government business opportunities. The budget provides opportunity for cheap capital for businesses. And in this regard, we have allocated money to the tune of around 2.4 trillion in affordable financing for private sector. And I've seen some of the players here, SCF, Agriculture Credit Fund in the Bank of Uganda, UDB, which is UDC, Small Business Fund, among others. I see them here, they are part of our partners. Two, participation in public procurement. And I saw my friend, the Executive Director of PPDA here, so you provide more details. But the budget has provided about 60% discretionary budget, which will be spent through public procurement. There will be several government contracts, the private sector, in services, energy, infrastructure contracts, transport, etc. So you can see 60% of our budget, Government of Uganda budget, is going into public procurement, an area where we need to prepare our people to participate. Three, massive investments in infrastructure, the enablers I talked about. You have, for example, 8.7 trillion allocated in transport, 3.07 trillion in energy infrastructure, among others. For example, our priority to build the standard gauge, which we believe will commence in the financial year that is coming, will be a game changer because it is projected that transport costs from Mombasa to Kampala will fall from United States dollars 3,500 to roughly 1,600. But more importantly, the transit time will reduce from 5 days to less than 1 day. So these are some of the opportunities, if we implement the budget well, that we hope we'll achieve. Four, are tax incentives which are conducive for business environment. Julius Mukunda highlighted a few, but let me focus mainly on those which are not only highlighted, but on welfare gains. For example, the income tax exemption to Bujagari Energy Limited signals government continued commitment to keeping industrial energy costs competitive. We have the tourism investment tax incentives in the financial year 26-27 budget. This is also a game changer for investment in the hospitality industry. Now let me turn, and as I conclude, households business opportunities, H2B opportunities. As I already indicated, now that we are a country with a per capita income of United States dollars 1,420. And since Uganda is meeting the lower middle income threshold, the demand for household services and consumables are projected to significantly increase over the next 15 years on account of rising household incomes at 5%, population, of course, growth at 2.9%, and rapid urbanization. Now, you need to start asking yourself this question. How do Ugandans spend their money? They spend their money on food, 46%, on rent, fuel and energy, 16%, transport and communication, 9%, school fees, 7%, groceries, 6%, Medicare, 5%, clothing, 3%, and others 8%. This is the composition of how a Ugandan spends most of their money, and you have UBO statistics. Therefore, business opportunities for SMEs in the sectors of food, residential housing, household energy, lighting and cooking, travel and tourism, education, etc. are likely to grow. And with the fundamentals I have highlighted and the allocations in these areas in the budget, we need to encourage our private sector to tap these opportunities. So how will they tap them? One, to benefit from these opportunities, especially SMEs, must take deliberate steps towards formalization and professionalization. This is the kind of efforts we should be working towards, including really civil society deliberately taking this at the fore. This will include formal registration, of course, to enhance visibility and compliance, certification, specialization, to build credibility, among others. 2, businesses should also foster partnerships to at least attract know-how. 3, private sector should learn to follow the money from the export market. As you all know, the composition of Uganda's exports has changed. And I think we also gave that as a preamble in the budget speech. But just to note, and just for emphasis, Mr. Moderator and colleagues, coffee used to contribute 62%, I think 30 years ago, of Uganda's export earnings, followed by tourism 10%, fish 3%, maize 2.5%, and then gold 2.4%, tobacco around 1%, and tea and cotton respectively in that threshold. What is the composition of Uganda's exports today? Top is gold, of course, 36.8%, travel and tourism 17.2%, coffee has gone up to, down from 62 to 10.5, ICT 9.7, and the rest of the services, transport, insurance, etc. The services sector has surged as well. Therefore, we need to prepare the private sector to look at not only the domestic market, but also to produce for export. This will help us widen our export earnings. This budget has therefore invested more in export promotion and support, and you have the details I can provide on what we've given in this regard. So as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind all of us here that the financial year 2026 budget provides opportunities, especially for wealth creators, a point emphasized by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Henry Musasizi, when he was reading the budget speech. Our role now as civil society, as leaders, is to encourage Ugandans to actively engage in wealth creation. Wealth creators need to position themselves in such a way that we can tap into the opportunities presented by the budget. The budget should not be in vain. We should make sure that these opportunities both availed by the visible hand, which is the government interventions, as I've highlighted in the budget, but also the invisible hand, which are the fundamentals that are allowing our market to perform close to those efficiency levels, as I've said, because of stability. The next financial year's budget, therefore, aims to accelerate the attainment of the tenfold growth strategy. Just for emphasis, as I said in the beginning, and government has allocated, I will emphasize this, 95.6% of its discretionary resources to the ATMs. This is the money we have to spend when we take off all the obligations, debt and all the other statutory obligations. It's discretionary. We can spend it and allocate it where we want. And we now all know, so 95%. So our role now will be to monitor and ensure that execution of this budget is done well. Ensure that this 95.6% of the resources do not go to waste. The budget in this way has prioritized production, productivity, value addition, exports, job creation, and of course the enablers as indicated. And I invite all of you to ensure that we also be part of this journey, especially as we embark on the execution of the budget next month. I look forward to your contribution throughout this dialogue, and of course feedback from this forum, as usual, feeds into our budget transparency initiative. We program better, even for next financial year. We shall execute the budget better, following some of the invariable contributions that will come from here. I thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me. For God and my country.
Thank you so much. I'll ask that you take a seat, and then we shall have a quick 10-minute. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Director Ashaba, for articulating the helicopter view of the budget, but also going granular to speak about the opportunities that our people, especially the households, can benefit from this budget, but also the businesses. I was very happy to hear that you've provided a lot of money to push down the price of money, which is interest rates, such that communities, businesses can borrow and be able to stimulate growth. But we shall deep dive more. So at this moment, I want to also invite to the podium the Director of Economic Affairs at Uganda's Ministry of Finance, Mr. Moses Kagwa, to join this platform such that I can allow the audience to engage with this strategic level Minister of Finance, finest of bureaucracy, on what this budget means for the country. A few questions, and Mr. Higenyi is going to help me to pick a few hands. Of course, later we are going to have Uganda Investment Authority, we're going to have Bank of Uganda, we're going to have PPDA, where we shall ask, further itemized questions. So for now, I think I'm going to have 5 members from the audience. Higenyi, we have a lady here.
Where is it?
In the front.
Right. Thank you. We advise that the question
and just one question, you be specific to who you're asking. Just one question, madam.
Thank you. My name is Rose Zobigar. I'm the woman member of Parliament, Terego. I want to appreciate the keynote speaker, and I just want to tell you this. Yes, we know that there is money given as an incentive to large-scale farmers, but there is a big challenge. You can't say somebody can borrow up to 5 billion but must have a collateral of 11 billion. If the person had 11 billion, was it really necessary to borrow the 5 billion? And 2, are you not going to give to yourselves? Because who in Terego can afford 11 billion? 2, do you supervise this money? Are they money lenders? I don't know, like Lesego, Premier, and Platinum, where do they fall? These people, if they give money, for example, 2 million, and at the end of the day you return 25 million. What kind of interest rate is this? We have been battling with them. I've given you specific names. Can we get them on a table and you get us and we have a discussion? Because from the frying pan, now we're in the fire. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Yes, the loans, the grace period, all those things, I know the panel will speak to them. Let me go to Dr. Arthur Binomcha.
Yeah, thank you very much, Moderator, Director of Budget, and Mr. Kagwa. Could you comment on the debt sustainability, because 33 trillion of this 84 trillion budget will be the first call on the budget will go to service our debt. Can you tell us how you are going to sustain this debt, because now it's going beyond debt sustainability? But secondly, the domestic debt that crowds out money for the private sector, which is very crucial. What measures are you taking to make sure that actually, first you pay the domestic debt, because some of the companies that supplied to government could have wound up their businesses, and that's not good for the economy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur. 3 more hands. Again, do we have someone else?
Thank you so much, our dear keynote speaker, for that impressive information. My name is Maurice Muhozi. So my question is, we've seen in the allocation 2.26 trillion Ugandan shillings has been set aside for agro-industrialization. So my question is, how much of that allocation will directly benefit small-scale farmers? We understand that small-scale farmers constitute the largest percentage of Uganda's agricultural workforce. So I want to understand the small-scale farmers there deep in the villages, in the countryside, how much of that will go directly to their initiatives. Number two, I would like to know whether investments in the agricultural inputs prioritize sustainable and locally adaptable solutions rather than promoting dependence on external inputs. So the Dutch ambassador talked of green financing, green agriculture financing. So we would like to see if there is allocation to sustainable agricultural initiatives, local solutions to agricultural transformation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's have the final question, such that our panel can respond.
Thank you very much. Samuel from Buyukwe, member of AXA. Now, thank you, Permanent Secretary, for that information. But my question is, always you are planning for the budget, but when are we going to have a higher percentage on agriculture? Because when you check this budget this year, the budget, you will find that this time is defense. Always agriculture is down, but after there you are going to eat food. So if you don't prioritize for agriculture, how are we going to save our country? Then another question, when you check the budget, local government, whatever, you will find that all the budget goes to the salaries. All the budget goes to the salaries. Are we developing or we are just saving for the small group? For example, check the MPs. When are we reach on the excess of paying 3M per month to the MPs for the rent? Thank you.
Okay, let me have back the microphone. You know, President Joe Biden, the former president of the United States, said, don't tell me what you value, or don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget, and I will tell you what your values and priorities are. But further, you know, the budget is also revenue and expenditure. But I think we spend a lot of time on the expenditure side of the budget and not the revenue. But Mr. Shaba, I was looking at the revenue side of the budget and noticed that at least every year we use around 1.9 trillion Uganda shillings to smuggling on our lakes. So that's a major leakage from the revenue side. How are you planning to close that? Thank you very much. So I will start with you, Director of Economic Affairs, Kagwa, to respond to some of the questions. Then I will go to Director Shaba.
Thank you.
Yeah. Feel free if you want to speak from here or there.
One has to think. Maybe yours.
Is the microphone okay? Okay.
Hello. Hello. Yes. Honorable members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished participants, good morning, and thank you for questions. First, I would want to thank our partners, CESBAG and Accord, Siatini, whom we've been having these discussions with. First, to acknowledge that this is a very good initiative that we meet with Ugandans and we discuss the budget. But I also propose that we should have this before the budget is finalized, so that whatever concerns of Ugandans are taken into account in such a forum and we move. Thank you. I will start with your question about the smuggling on the lakes and everywhere. Of course, smuggling is a vice that is ever evolving. It's like an amoeba. So what we've done, first and foremost, is to introduce scanners on the borders. And we make sure that all the goods that are coming in are properly scanned. And we know what is in there, because some people actually have been declaring. For example, they are bringing textiles and declare them as matchboxes, because matchboxes attract a lower rate and they pay and clear. Now, with the scanners, that is being handled. We are also using, we are going to use drones. We are using them to move around and track the porous borders to ensure that at least we have a presence there most of the time. 3, we know that most of the goods that are actually that are being smuggled come through, they are imported outside East Africa. So some of the goods, we are taxing them, what we call the sensitive goods. We are taxing them from Mombasa. By the time they come, taxes have been paid and they have been verified from there. So we are using that. We are also trying to control the internal container depots where these goods go. Sometimes there's a lot of leakage in the depots, and we are putting sensitive goods in particular areas, in particular ICDs where there's control. I know some importers have been crying about that, but that's one of the measures we are taking to curb these illicit practices. And of course, we'll continue getting information. We are getting information from intelligence on what is happening, and we are using that information. When we get the smugglers this time, the punishments are punitive, because we just don't take the goods and leave them. Now there is taking them to the court, prosecuting them, and imprisoning them, on top of them forfeiting their goods. So we are trying to get the crime out. The economic benefits out of the crime of smuggling. On debt, the debt is still sustainable. We do a debt sustainability analysis, and we find that the debt is still sustainable. Of course, we look at the debt to GDP. It's slightly above 50% of GDP, but that doesn't make it unsustainable. It is still within sustainability. However, we are concerned also about the liquidity ratios. How much are we paying back in interest and in the principal as a percentage of our revenues? So we are starting to think about innovative ways of financing our budget. One, increasing domestic revenue mobilization. That is now a song on our lips. And we are going to move away from the 14% of GDP where we have been. Like this year, we had envisaged that we shall collect 37.6 trillion. And that would have got us to 14.9% of GDP. To the 45 that we are looking for next year, which would actually take us to about 15.9% of GDP. That means that at least that effort is increasing. But we are also looking at other alternatives of financing government programs like the PPPs. That is one area. Now when we are looking at the standard gauge railway, we have looked at other financing like the Sukuk. This is an Islamic bond where people contribute, and we think that will be another way. 2, we use the guarantee schemes where we borrow $1 million, for example, and we don't utilize the $1 million, but we use that as a guarantee where some financiers will be able to collect another $4 to $5 million So we are expanding the innovative ways or we can finance our budget. And I think this is going to bear fruit. On top of the continuous borrowing also, we are trying to say most of the infrastructure projects are going to be strictly long-term loans from concessional lenders like the World Bank, the African Development Bank. That's where our concentration is going to be.
Before we move on, Kagwa, speak to domestic arrears and how much money you put in the budget to make sure that suppliers of government...
I want to leave some things for Mr. Shaba to answer, otherwise he will be redundant. I don't want him to be redundant.
Okay.
Thank you. You'll answer that one.
That's a smart cross and bridge.
Mm-hmm. On Honorable Rose raised issues on the money we are borrowing for large scale, on the large scale farmers. This is a program where we realized that we had put a lot of money in the parish development model, which was for small farmers. Parish, yes, give them 1 million shillings to start their enterprises. But the large-scale farmers were not getting anything, and they said, well, there is, if we are to borrow from commercial banks, even from UDB, the interest costs are so high. What can we do for us? We also didn't have money to give the large-scale farmers because they needed about 250 billion. So we didn't have that money to give to the large-scale farmers. And then we said, any large-scale farmer, who is a large-scale farmer? Anybody who has 50 acres or more is a large-scale farmer, and we should cater for them. So we formed this program and said, we as government, we will take the interest costs in the loans so that a large-scale farmer accesses a facility from a government financial institution. That is Pearl Bank, Pride Bank, and Housing Finance Bank. Interest-free. They go there, they present their case, and then the banks should lend them money. And I think so far 186 farmers have accessed this facility, and they have borrowed 169.1 billion. So we are going to be putting 41 billion as interest each financial year to provide to large-scale farmers. And I think the program is doing well, but as you rightly pointed out, we need to sensitize it more so that people know how they can access it. But the issue you raised about somebody being asked for a collateral, which is more than 200% or twice what they are borrowing, I was not really aware, but I will ask and confirm. But the banks, we left them because we didn't want to interfere with their operations. The banks are lending their money. For us, we are contributing the interest. So the banks must make sure that their money is going to be recovered. They can't come to us and say, so-and-so has defaulted and we can't get back our money. So they are using their normal lending rules. We did not tamper with them. But I'll find out what you have said about that. I think, what else was there for me? How to benefit small scale holders. Mr. Maurice Muhozi is asked about what is the money for agriculture. I think there is a lot of money for agriculture, but that's a debate we have been having as to whether it is the amount of the money that we are putting in agriculture, or what actually that money is going to do. I know some countries, their commitments, the Zimbabwe Harare Declaration, and another declaration where I say, put 10% of your budget in agriculture. Put 15% of your money in this. What is it going to do? That should be the question. It's not how much, but what is the money actually going to do? Are we putting enough money, or aren't we putting enough money? And for me, that should be the conversation we should be having. But we have put 160 billion in agro-industrialization. See whether that's actually going to do, whether it's going to boost agriculture. How are smallholder farmers benefiting? Smallholder farmers, they benefit from a myoga. That is their starting point. Go to a myoga, get your 1 million shillings, start a piggery enterprise, start a poultry enterprise, start something. And we've seen people who have generated income out of this. But also, if farmers are properly organized, they can seek financing from microfinance support center, because there is money there for them. They can go there and seek the financing. I think the rest will be for the PSST to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I come to the PSST, you know before Moses, the way we used to understand agriculture in this country, we understood agriculture as production, but not necessarily the entire comprehensive value chains. And I'm really happy that in this budget you have looked at it comprehensively and budgeted for agro-industrialization. And there are a lot of opportunities there. Now let me come to you, Mr. PSST, to take on some of the other questions.
Thank you very much, Maurice, and the audience for the questions. One from Dr. Arthur on domestic debt. They are related, domestic debt and the crowding out effect, and of course domestic areas. Like my colleague Kagwa has indicated, of course we are concerned about debt, but also debt service. So that's why beyond the solvency ratios, he was talking about debt GDP, we are also now going to those liquidity ratios, how much of our revenue goes to debt service, etc., etc. But more importantly are two questions. Where does this debt go? It's a question also that many people should ask immediately after talking sustainability of the debt. And as we have discussed before, we find that most of this debt is going to transport infrastructure, almost 30% of that debt, electricity around 20%, water infrastructure. That's why you see indicators are showing improvements in those areas, and I think those are the generators of growth. Now, back to what we are doing to ensure that there's no crowding out. Of course, we are very cautious, but more importantly, a position we have held is that most of the borrowing we do, instead of crowding out, monetizes the unmonetized population, isn't it? You find money, we now have like 11 trillion out there into these programs my colleague was talking about. 8 trillion going there. 4.4 trillion of that is PDM alone. To almost 10,000 plus parishes. Money is there and you can see what it is doing. So these people now have no recourse to expensive debt, which they would have otherwise had. So there are two sides to this argument. Money we borrow and take to UDB. Already now, you see the portfolio of UDB, UDC, among others. So we need to examine further around this crowding out, especially in the context of Uganda. Domestic areas is also a concern. because it's an obligation we must do. We have developed a domestic areas strategy to ensure that we started this year, but in the next 4 years we make sure that we clear these areas. This financial year that is ending this month, we had 1.4 trillion in the budget, and we have released all that money, mainly for suppliers, contractors to pay certificates, among others. Next financial year, and I knew you wanted that number, we put 317 billion. But we are further verifying, because even the stock, when we got independent verifiers, we found that some of it does not meet to be what? Domestic areas. They had no documentation and all that. So a verification is being done, both by the Auditor General, but also a private firm, to ensure that we understand our domestic areas position and we pay the stock, this stock. But more importantly, and I think Mr. Mukunda mentioned, is the Charter of Fiscal and Budget Accountability, that charter, so that we also stop the flow. Because as you clear, people are again piling more of the domestic areas. So that's why we are putting very, very, very strict and binding issues on accounting officers. Create areas, there is a very strong sanction. You will not be an accounting office again. We shall be sharing with you this charter. It has around 5 or 6 rules, which are very binding. So the commitment is to make sure that we really clear the stock, but also close the tap so that there are no more creation of areas. Let me also comment maybe on again the budget for agriculture. I think my colleague anyway already commented on it. But we have now focused on a few things in agriculture. Because also the money for roads, the money for electricity is also contributing to agro-industrialization. But issues to do with extension services, we've now fully provided. And I think these are areas we need to start monitoring. Money is there in the budget, both an allocation this year, but even in the base. Sometimes we also look at only the financial year, but cumulatively there is now money enough to hire extension workers across the country. So now the issue would be for us leaders, instead of questioning and asking for more money, whether these extension workers are doing what? Doing their job. Money for mechanization, among others. We can, I don't want to repeat the speech again, but we are very clear on areas we are prioritizing, which now are adequately funded. I think, Maurice, those are the few areas which my colleague had not responded to.
Yes, thank you very much, Director Ashaba. But I want you to comment on this issue of sustainability of interest rates, because as government you have made major interventions to put interest rates down below the, to a single digit for borrowers, and this is a direct government intervention. But how it is going to be sustainable in the medium term and long term, that every budget you make those interventions? Why don't we, how do we allow the market to do it? Because the central bank comes up with a central, with a CRB rate every other time. But banks, 20%, 22%, yet return on investment, is around 14%. But interest rates remain high. Why is the intervention of CRB not making banks respond? How sustainable is this going to be, Director Ashaba?
Well, moving forward, of course, this intervention must be sustainable. You cannot have a recourse to the budget endlessly, the market. But the market needs to be sometimes distorted to do the right thing. And everywhere they are doing that, isn't it? The other day I was seeing what enabled Elon Musk to go to the sky. A lot of money, generally too much money that they put in. But then when you look at the long-term returns of such interventions, they are huge. So as I indicated, the interventions we do generally are yielding fruit. We see now, and you heard one of the members from the audience, some of these beneficiaries of, for example, the large-scale farmers scheme. Apart from those policy distortions which we are going to take, over-collateralization, and also some have been complaining of the charges, the embedded charges are a bit huge. But it's a good scheme, zero interest. And we are seeing uptake, and we were showcasing some of these farmers. Again, you can see they have taken great strides. Therefore, my point is that the market sometimes also is not an efficient allocator. Government from time to time comes in to make sure that you stabilize these rates. On their own, they will not go down. But what we are doing also concurrently is to tackle some of the issues, underlying issues around interest rates. The signal of the CRB will not address those underlying issues. Why are Ugandans high-risk borrowers? It's something we need to address, and this will not be addressed by CRB. Maybe the parish model is addressing some of it. Interestingly, as I conclude, we are seeing that parish model, some of these people are beginning to pay. I don't know whether my colleague has numbers, but many of them are women. So maybe we need to do something on the on the men's side to ensure that they pay. So my point is that CRB, in most cases, is a signal, but it might not be the proper solution to high interest rates, especially for risky borrowers.
Okay, thank you very much. Directors, I can see very much that Maynard Kane is very much influential at the Ministry of Finance because he supported government direct intervention on some of these affairs. And I think I was discussing with Mr. Julius Mukunda, we are big fans of parish development model. We need you to put more money as a stimulator of aggregate demand, but also creation of wealth at the household. I will release you.
Thank you.
PSST, Huntington Ashaba, and my brother, Dr. Moses Kagwa. Thank you very much. Can you clap for this team from Ministry of Finance? Thank you very much. I will now invite my brother Higenyi to take us through the official launch of the financial year 2020-2026, 2027 Uganda Investment and Outlook Guide and a group photo. I will come back.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much, Morrison Rakakamba, for that amazing moderation of that discussion and being able to excavate all the information that we need in order to make better decisions. A big round of applause to Mr. Morrison Rakakamba, and thank you to the panelists. What we are going to witness right now is the launch of the Uganda Investment and Economic Opportunities Guide. This is one of the portals where all the information you need on what particular opportunities, where they lie, how you should access whatever amounts of money that you want, this is going to answer those questions. I would like to invite Executive Director Julius Mukunda and the Danish Ambassador, who was our keynote speaker. Of course, I would also love to ask members of parliament to come forth, and then some chief accounting officers from across the country for the official launch of this particular guide, one that offers us all the information that we need. Officials from the Ministry of Finance, please return and be part of this. Signatures will be required. And the photographers and the camera persons, please ensure that that exercise is well captured. It's live on Uganda Broadcasting Corporation and also running live on the CSPAG YouTube channel. And for those that are joining us from across the world, we thank you for this particular initiative. There we are. Please ensure your signature is on there. After that, we shall have a working tea break, and then it should be done in the quickest of times, because we have to embark on our next engagement, which will be a panel discussion on investment opportunity, a spotlight session that will be taking us from budget allocation to business opportunity, and it will of course be undertaken and marshaled by Morrison Rakakamba. For those of us that won't be signing on to the guide, stewards right there at the entrance will be able to guide us on where to go for that, where you can pick that working tea. Please ensure, return to the table, just like the description is, it's a working tea. Do not stay there, come with it on the table so that we are able to move on to our next session. We are trying to claw back on much needed minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's working tea, but we are proceeding. So, as the signatures are going on this guide, I will take the opportunity to invite a representative from Bank of Uganda, Uganda Investment Authority, Uganda Revenue Authority, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, to come forward and we'll continue the conversation. To come and take your seats in front. Bank of Uganda, let me have somebody from Uganda Investment Authority. Where are these guys? Yeah, but I want my guys to sit. Peter from Uganda Investment Authority, I suspect you are the one coming. Mr. Higenyi, find me somebody from Bank of Uganda. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and I need your details. You're the director of the fund. You're the money man. You are the guy. Not the question. Okay. You are shooting to the wrong people. Not on the other. They are policy guys, but I needed to check them and see if they can go granular. Yeah. So, I can get seated? Yeah, you have to sit actually. Bank of Uganda. This is Edward Mugerwa from Bank of Uganda.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you're doing that, please ensure that we do it a little bit quicker.
I want Uganda Revenue Authority here. I want Uganda Investment Authority.
Yeah, there you have it. For those of us, the working tea, pick a cup of tea, a snack, and then return to the auditorium so that this conversation can continue smoothly.
I think Canon Ben Toramia, you come from the PPDA such that you answer the questions when people are still fresh. Fantastic. We have Bank of Uganda, the director of the administered funds. All the money that we are talking about is here, Mr. Edward Mugerwa. We have the executive director. Are you sitting near me? We have the executive director of the PPDA, Canon Toramie Benson. But we also have the Petroleum Authority of Uganda with us, and we have Faith Musimenta, who is a senior petroleum economist. We also have Mr. Jude Ocheng, who is the manager for policy and international affairs, representing the Commissioner of Customs from the Uganda Revenue Authority. Chris Higenyi, I need you to help me whip the members such that we can have a proper working tea while we get stuff done. Can we have members return to the hall?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's make it quicker. Our panelists are already on the podium, are ready to engage, and it will be the best of scenarios if each of us is there to start alongside with them.
Thank you, Chris. Hey, members, we are going to start discussing real opportunities when you're still outside. Edward Mugerwa, who is the director of all the administered funds, Agricultural Credit Facility, Small Businesses Fund, Post-COVID Recovery Fund. He's here. And Jude is here from Uganda Revenue Authority to tell us why smuggling is still in place. why VAT returns are not paid back to business people quickly, and why EFRIS is working and sometimes not working. So URA is here. And why we need to support URA to collect more money such that services can get to the people. And why the question of formalization through incentives are not whip is very important. Ocheng, we need the answers. And I think we know that this year oil is coming. So that's why we have the Petroleum Authority of Uganda here. So we want to know, how will the real people, the farmers, the women, the preachers, the elders benefit from this oil thing? And the Canon Ben Toramie of the PPD is here, a reformer, a transformational figure who is making sure that procurement benefits don't only go to the big moneyed guys, but to young people, but to women. Now everyone can supply government. I think we begin. And I will start with the Bank of Uganda. Mr. Edward Mugerwa, tell us, this financial year budget emphasizes private sector-led growth. How much money is there for Small Business Recovery Fund? Who are the target beneficiaries? And what measures are you putting in place to generally improve access to affordable financing for small-scale and medium enterprises? Ladies and gentlemen, we've started.
Thank you. I do hope I'm audible enough. The Small Business Fund is a government scheme that was introduced initially to help small and medium enterprises that had got a hit from the COVID pandemic. Government put aside a total of 100 billion shillings to date. And this money is available to all small businesses. This includes hardware, salons, even those with market stalls, market vendors, as long as they have records to demonstrate that they are organized and they are able to pay back this money. To our utmost disappointment, out of that 100 billion, to date, only a total of 14 billion in net effect has been utilized. You'll probably notice that in the budget that was released for next financial year, government has not allocated us additional money, because we as an economy, we have not yet consumed the 100 billion. We still have outstanding on that fund of 86 billion unutilized funds. That money is still available to all the SMEs that need it. Now, if you are into schools, if you are you're running a medical center, you're running a medical clinic, you have a drug shop, you have a salon, you have whatever small and medium enterprise that you can think of, that money is available to you. There are challenges, and I want to talk to them, that we had initially because of the stringent requirements that had been imposed on this fund. Now, since February this year, Cabinet sat together with the partners, our commercial banks, that are helping us disburse this money, and we literally removed most of the requirements that we are preventing the SMEs to access these funds. For instance, the requirement for a turnover is not there anymore. We also relaxed, as long as you have started the business, you do not have been, it's not required that you should have been operating for a year or 2 years or 3 years. But as long as you demonstrate that you've started a business, you are running a business, that money is available for you. We disburse this money through commercial banks. It's an interesting partnership that has delivered dividend on us in terms of due diligence and appraisal. It's working for us. When you look at for the non-performing asset ratios, they are quite impressive, probably the best in the market. Yeah, that's where I would like to stop for now.
Thank you very much. I will definitely come back to you. But for now, let me go to the Uganda Revenue Authority. And I think Jude Ocheng is going to tell us, because many small-scale and medium enterprises struggle with tax compliance. Tell us, what support mechanisms has the Uganda Revenue Authority put in place to help them remain compliant while growing their businesses?
Thank you very much, Morrison, and good morning. I'll first of all start by indicating that the revenue bodies, or the revenue body, has since evolved from its primary role of collecting taxes to being a facilitator of trade, As such, there are a number of initiatives that have been undertaken in order for the organization to support compliance by taxpayers. At the topmost, we have taken on an aggressive drive of tax education, where we believe that the taxpayers, the level of compliance of taxpayers tends to be driven by their ability to appreciate what is due to the states in forms of taxes and what benefits they receive from those taxes that they do pay. We have set up a number of facilitative measures that I would say are basically rooted around 3 pillars. One being simplifying trade, and in simplifying trade there are a number of initiatives that the revenue organization has done. We have improved digitalization of our services immensely, and that makes it easier for you as a taxpayer to access these services without necessarily having to walk to fixed offices in the URA premises. For international trade, we have optimized a number of services and put them under our Uganda Electronic Single Window, where we bring a number of partnering agencies. Say, for example, if you are importing or doing trade in agriculture, in the past you would have to go and get clearances from agriculture. You would go, maybe you want a phytosanitary certificate and others. Now we have brought those regulators into one space under the electronic single window, where when you do a declaration, you find that all players in your transaction are within one space. And from this, we have seen a number of benefits. First of all, the turnaround time has considerably reduced. Some transactions or some studies have indicated that some transactions that would take 8 days have been reduced to under 2 days because of some of these activities. When you go, for example, to our border stations where we do international trade, you'll notice that now we have what we call the OSBPs, one-stop border posts, where we put agencies in physical locations together from both countries, such that you'd get clearances much faster. I'll give an example of Malaba border posts. If anyone used to do business and pass there, trucks used to stay there for about 7 days. It's hardly possible for a truck to spend 2 days there anymore. And we are improving this further to bring down this, this time frame to under 2 hours, which is a very aggressive plan, but that is the plan. That we have scanners, we have less physical intervention, we have optimized usage of technology to improve. Now, by doing this, we believe that the reward on the other side would be that taxpayers would become more compliant because they are not losing money to these other factors that are outside taxes. Another area from which how we are improving compliance is by, right now we are doing what is called targeted risk assessments or intelligence risk assessments. That we are not identifying all taxpayers, say for purposes of audit or the other. We are using risk tools. We are to identify who to audit at what time. We have introduced technological factors like IFRIS, which basically ensures that if you make a transaction, then we shall not take you through the rigorous process of when applying for, say, a return, of verifying those receipts, because that becomes now electronic receipts that ensure that the moment a transaction is done, we already know what transaction it is, but also it means that your tax credits are with us in advance and you can easily obtain them.
Thank you very much.
So briefly, I would say that those are the areas we are looking at. Tax education, simplifying our systems, leveraging on technology. Then, of course, the last one is productive partnerships. Who are our partners? We, as URA, we strongly believe that by engaging the private sector, by working with civil society, we optimize that to first of all improve on our collection, but ultimately we give a delightful experience to the taxpayer, and as such, then you can promote compliance. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Jude Ocheng from the Uganda Revenue Authority. You know, clearly from biblical times, taxpayers were quite feared people, you know, as you remember. But it seems to me, and I hope you people who are in business know, I think the Uganda Revenue Authority is now investing in behavioral economics, whereby they prize more partnerships, education. So now taxpayers are going to be friends of the tax collectors. And I think that is what will expand the tax base and take us forward. So having said that, I will shift to the PPDA. And under Canon Ben Turamye, PPDA has tried to democratize and created something called a reservation scheme. So we want to know, how does this reservation scheme work? And number two, how will this reservation scheme, after we have understood it, increase participation of local enterprises, women, youth, the elderly, and people with disabilities in public procurement? Canon Ben.
Thank you very much, Morris. And I want first of all to greet the honorable members of parliament that are present, and I congratulate them. I want also to register my appreciation to Julius for inviting me, and also recognizing that public procurement is central in driving the implementation of the budget. Ashawa talked about 60% of the budget going through public procurement. I want to add that public procurement contributes 18% of the GDP. So it is central. No government agency, ministry, agents and department, including local governments, that they don't have budget for procurement. So allow me, before I go to these specific questions, demystify the procurement function as central, as a driving factor in contributing to the tenfold growth strategy. First of all, when we talk about procurement, for those who are not familiar with, any infrastructure works, talk about roads, buildings, electrical lines, dams, etc. That is public procurement. If you are talking about supplies or goods, talk about roads equipment, medicine, medical equipment, industry equipment, seedlings, agricultural inputs that the government purchase, that is public procurement. And services, consultants and non-consultant services. So the 60% of the national budget is spent through public procurement, and it is key in driving the economy. And public procurement is not a process where you say we have started from planning up to award and we have a contractor. It also involves contract execution, contract management, and finally delivering the services and the goals that a project is intended to achieve. So when we go back to this budget execution or by this dialogue, if you are talking about 84 trillion shillings and 60% of that, if you remove, say, debt payment and other contractual obligations of government, even if you put it at 40 trillion that is going to go through public procurement, government has come up with interventions or policies regarding your specific question of reservation schemes. Reservation scheme meaning that put aside some percentage of the budget, some budget, some sectors that will benefit, especially in driving the BUBU, the local content policy. How can a Ugandan going to benefit from this budget? And that is the reservation scheme you are talking about, or you are asking about. And in the first place, the reservation has been by threshold. Before we go to the special interest group, threshold, and I will give you examples, by types of procurements that the government conduct. And the types include works, include services, include supplies or goods. And I will use just an example of road works. All procurements that are below 15 billion Uganda shillings must go to, the competition must be only to Ugandans. If it is between 15 and 45 billion, Ugandans plus resident providers, non-Ugandans that have registered companies in Uganda, 15 to 45 billion. That's a very big chunk of the budget. And if I go to local governments, my colleagues here in the local governments, all their procurements are below that. That means all the procurements in the cities, in the municipalities, in the districts will go to Ugandans. In addition, I hope I still have some time. In addition to the thresholds, government provides a big chunk of the budget. And Again, the reservation has been extended to products, and several products, if you are buying them, you must buy them in Uganda, so that you promote, first of all, the manufacturing, the domestic manufacturing industry in terms of the capacity utilization, but also providing market. And these products include uniforms and clothing, electrical, transformers, medicines. We had, the last time we counted, we had 46 medicines manufactured in Uganda. What that means that national medical stores must buy these medicines here and others. There are 8 products. What that actually means in real economic sense is that more Ugandans are going to be employed in these industries, more utility, a lot of utility will be utilized, and the companies will further, these manufacturing facilities will further expand their capacity utilization and export more. You go to Uganda Roofings, they will testify how the reservation has helped them, because the third area, if we have a government project, you are doing a road, you are doing a dam, you are doing a building, you must buy the local, the inputs in this project locally. Cement, iron bars, steel materials, all the inputs that are used in government projects, and that also is helping in terms of capacity utilization of domestic manufacturing industry.
I will get you back, but you conclude, but I will get you back.
Okay, but let me conclude, especially the window for special interest groups. 15% of the budget, of the procurement budget that we talked about, must benefit the special interest group, women, youth, and persons with disability. The objective of this was, of course, to create wealth to this group, but also provide employment, especially the youth. And if we are talking about 15% of like 40 trillion, that is already a budget, even not to governance and security. Governance and security is around 5 trillion, but 15% of the procurement budget is around 6 trillion that is going to benefit this. We have put provisions, we have put enabling environment in terms of the bidding processes, of the bidding requirements, so that every government agency, their 15% of the procurement budget must benefit this group. And we are proud of that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Canon, thank you very much, Canon Turamye. We shall bring you back. But first of all, I want to thank the Brain Trust at CS BAG for bringing procurement to the center of these conversations. I think it is vital. Another round of, and I think Uganda Investment Authority, you may want to have conversations with the PPDA and bring them into the one-stop center. Because with this reservation fund, it's central to how small businesses and manufacturers can actually participate in the public procurement economy. Of course, I will get back to you, Ben, because the President mentioned something called term no sleep, and the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Musasizi, also recognized that the challenge for the budget is execution. And that execution, procurement is at the heart of it. Because over the years, we have seen bureaucratic inertia that has led to project cost overruns, but also time overruns. So in terms of project execution efficiency across the country, we are still below the average. It is something that I would want you to get to, but I also allow some questions going forward. But for now, let me get to the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. As you know, we are going to have the first oil this year. So we want to know what specific opportunities exist for Ugandan businesses in the oil and gas sector over the financial year, and how can local SMEs position themselves to benefit from local content requirements. I would ask Faith Msimenta, who is a senior petroleum economist, to respond to this.
Thank you very much. I'll stand on the protocol that has already been observed. And I know it's budget season, but it's also World Cup season. And one of the key players in the World Cup is a goalkeeper from Cape Verde called Vozinha. And Vozinha has been able to, first of all, he's over 40 years old. Secondly, it was the first time they were coming onto the global scene and were able to create a point for their country. And the oil and gas industry is the same. Over 40 years old, if it goes way back to 1980s, first time we're getting onto the global scene, and the oil and gas sector is going to create a point for the economic sector. So we're really looking forward to seeing how the oil and gas sector is really going to impact the sector. For us to achieve the benefits of the sector, we need to see the sector being funded. And funding comes from two ways. One, government funding or public funding, and two, private sector funding. It's impossible for one to leave out the other. We expect, if you look at the major key projects, that's Tilenga, Kingfisher, ECOP is the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, the refinery. We expect about $20 billion to be invested in the sector. Turn that to trillion shillings, that's about 74 trillion shillings. Looking at our current budget for 2026-2027, that's over 80% of the budget. So clearly, the budget on its own is not able to fund the sector or the projects of the sector. So when we talk about opportunities, you've got to look at the opportunities that are being created by the collaborative funding from both the government and private sector. And when we look at these opportunities, for this particular year, if we look at how much has already been spent, we've spent about $13 billion as at end of December 2025. And we expect to spend about $800 to $1 billion in just 2026. And after first oil, when we get into production, we expect to spend about $400 million on an annual basis for 20 years to come. So with all this money that we're looking to spend, how are you able to tap into these opportunities? In looking at the opportunities to tap into the oil and gas sector, you must be cognizant of three particular things. So I want you to pay key attention to these particular things, especially if you're looking to invest. One, what is the value chain of the oil and gas sector? Two, where along the value chain, or if you're to look at the projects within the different value chains, at what stage of their project cycle are they at? And three, who are the key players within the different projects, and what kind of services and needs do they have? So if we look at the value chain, which is the first thing, the value chain, we have the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. So upstream is essentially the process of getting the crude from the ground. Then the midstream, we get to transport the crude, we get to refine the crude, we get to also store the crude. And then the final one is the downstream, and that's where most of us play, or at least are able to see the actual benefit of the oil and gas sector, and that is through our cars, the LPG that you have in our home that we use for cooking, and so on. So if you're an investor in here, or if you know someone back home, where do they want to play? Do they want to play in the upstream? Do they want to play in the midstream? Or do they want to play in the downstream? You can even play in all the value chains, especially if you have the capital to do so. Why not? So the second thing is where along the projects that are within the different value chains, at what point are they at when it comes to their project cycle, or the life cycle of the project. So if it's the upstream will start off by exploration, trying to find where the oil is, and then we go into, once we have hit commercial, once we have identified any commercial reserves, so that is basically saying we found enough oil that can be able to give us money. So once we have found this, the crude oil that is enough, then we go into development stage. Development stage is really about civil works and infrastructure development. We have electrical installation, mechanical works, and so on. So here, that's when you're able to say that, okay, if our current project, we are at the point where we are just phasing out the development stage and getting into the production stage. So for the production stage is the stage at which we actually start producing and exporting the crude oil. So if you came during the development stage, if you've been a player within development stage, at the development stage, that's where we see the peak of investment. If you think about building a house, the development stage is more like the stage where you put up the foundation, put up the shell and everything else. And so during that time, that's when you spend the most. And the production stage is more like when you've, entered the house, and maybe now if it's a rental property, you're starting to recoup from the rental property, but you're not spending as much after the house has been completed. So we expect to see a drop in the investment, and that's why I stated that this particular year we are looking at 800 to 1 billion US dollars. 800 million to 1 billion US dollars to be invested within the sector. But once we hit production, it's going to drop to about 400 million US dollars. So what kind of opportunities do we see as we get into the production phase?
Do you have a date and month when the first drop of the oil comes on board?
Okay, so we expect that, first of all, the projects are right on course. That is Tilenga, Kingfisher, and ECOP, and we expect that we'll be able to achieve first oil within this financial year. And so we are confident that we should be able to receive financial oil with this upcoming financial year. And in case there are any changes to the dates, Minister of Minerals and Minister of Energy and Mineral Development will be able to communicate. Wow. But this upcoming financial year, we expect first oil.
Strategic ambiguity, but we shall hold you to account.
Okay, so as I proceed, so what opportunities do we see as we get into the production phase? As we get into production phase, first let me take you a little back to the development phase. So during the development phase, there are certain equipment that have been set up. Now this equipment needs to be maintained. So we are going to see a lot of maintenance and operation within the production phase. So the things like well maintenance. If we look at the wells, we expect collectively we expect over 400 wells. And currently we've so far, during the development phase, we've so far drilled over 200 wells, and these 200 wells need maintenance and have been maintained during this period. But once we hit production, even the number of wells are going to increase. So we are going to need well maintenance. Civil works, the roads that we've been, the facilities, the infrastructure that we've put up, all that is going to need maintenance. So maintenance is going to be a key opportunity. So you want to look at which players, and that's the thing the third part I was going to go to, who are the key players and what are the key services that they need. So if also, there are some services that are going to continue that they were in the development stage, but we'll still see them in the production phase. For example, security, camp management, there'll still be need for food, and right now the camps buy the agricultural produce from the locals, but everyone is open to, supply the oil companies. We have a booth at the back there, and if you're looking to understand how you register onto the National Supplier Database that is considered when looking for suppliers of the oil and gas sector, you can go to that booth and they'll be able to take you through that. Yeah, so maybe...
No, I will come back to the panel for you to make your concluding remarks. So make sure the points that you didn't make, you outline them. But I'll go to the audience and get quick 5 questions. Chris, help me with that. Where are the hands up?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, those questions, we would like to urge you to make them very brief so that we can have move forward very quickly. Honorable.
Thank you, moderator. Once again, my name is Peggy Joy Walker. I represent old persons in Parliament. One of the facilitators there mentioned that special interest groups are catered for by 15%. And when they talk of special interest groups, they only mention youth, women, and disabled. You forget older persons that they are also there. My concern is, since SAGE program for older persons started in 2015, they only get 25,000. We have cried, we have done that this money should be increased. It has never been increased. Each time, instead of increasing it, you have even made it worse. Instead of catering from 60 years onwards, you only cater for 80 years and above. And for information, how many Ugandans reach the age of 80? Me, I thought you should at least cater from 60. If you have failed to cater for 60, cater for 65 years. At least every financial year, we put in our complaint. We are promised. But when the budget comes out, we are nowhere to be catered for. As if that is not enough, we have another program which caters for those between 60 years and 79. It is called SEGOP. Government had allowed us to get 10 billion per financial year. Instead of giving it all, they only give us 5 billion. And now we are demanding our areas for more than 21 billion. The areas are not coming, the money is too little, the demand is so high, yet when you talk of special interest groups that they are given 15%, you think that we are also catered for. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable and Senior Citizen. For her, I had to allow her more time. But for the next person, be direct, just one question.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kasure Muhammad from Catholic Center for Legal Aid Services, class. Thanks more to the chair, Canon, from the PPDA. It seems the policies are encouraging local content, which is good. But now we have a challenge when it comes to local content or supplying, which is the date. We have court decisions now that have come up to say you cannot execute against the government at whatever level until you are sure your areas were put in the budget. So how is the ministry and the PPDA coming up to help the suppliers on that? Because they resorted to court, but it seems the court cannot help. It is only the policies and the budget allocations that can help. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I am Bernard Onyinyi from MOBS. My question goes to the first discussant who talked about small business recovery fund. I want to thank you for this information. Actually, the challenge we have is the knowledge gap. I've talked to colleagues on the table and nobody is aware about this facility. Good enough you're there. We are now with you. The question is, you say this money has been placed in commercial banks. We want to find out, are they across the board or specific commercial banks where we can go for some information? And then the last question goes to PPDA colleague. It's good your policies are now getting back to Ugandans. The question is, standards. How are you going to control for standards? Because like in my place in Namugongo, there was a road which was commissioned by a local contractor. It actually worsened after completion. So how are you going to take care of standards? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think the final question in front here.
Thank you so much. For those who arrived late, I said I'm Rose Zobiga, the woman member of Parliament Terego. PPD, I'm very happy to see you. I think we need reforms in procurement. If you don't know, let me tell you. Anything that goes through PPDA becomes damn expensive. If we get things that are constructed, or roads, services, comparing Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, we are a big embarrassment. So we get a lot of money, we budget a lot of money, 60% goes through PPDA. At the end of the day, what we get is a drop in the ocean. For example, my daughter is seated here from Petroleum, where we were laying the pipelines. The plots, the line where the land where the lines passed. I don't know whether you are able to verify and check properly how much they were bought. This is our country. This is our country. We are bleeding internally. Actually, we are almost reaching a point where we disband you. If we cannot have reforms, then it's not worth it. I'm begging you today, hear it from me. I am tired. We are tired. It is too much. Through you, things are damn expensive. Can you today go home and get reformed? All of you in that sector. Let's have value for money. Let's have this country at heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. You had a final one. Yeah, the final quick one, and then I get back to the panel.
A quick one to the taxman. I appreciated the magnanimity you have extended in what Mr. Akamba has called behavioral economics. My question is on the struggling industries, like the tea industry. Could you also extend this kind of magnanimity in advocating, because your word is more heard by government than even legislators, especially when you are talking of buy Uganda, build Uganda. When we are selling out tea to the international market, which has been badly affected, we are struggling now with the market. The option we have is the local market. The taxman is here with the VAT, which is now finishing off the little that we are getting from the local market. As a result, tea factories are just closing. And this is the taxman who is working with the investor to ensure that this industry comes up. But is here, now the little that somebody was surviving on is going into the local tax, yet we are promoting buy Uganda, build Uganda. Is there a way this taxman can work with this investor to ensure that in this struggling environment, you can do something? I know you will tell me that you are implementing the law because you are supposed to get this VAT, but it is the same person that can easily influence government to relax on VAT, especially on struggling industries when they are trying to sell locally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, audience, for your questions. I will now get back. That's relentless, but be...
Thank you so much, moderator. I am Richard Wambi. I'm the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer at Juman District Local Government. I'll go straight to the Small Business Recovery Fund. As you will be shedding light on the various commercial banks as asked by my colleague down there, would you like to remind the Ugandans who are listening to us live, what are those basic requirements to access this money? Yes, you talked about what was scrapped. Can you remind them what are the requirements such that we go and get this money and we put it to use? I am worried that we are really not utilizing this money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go straight to you, Edward Mgirwa, who is the director of all the administered funds under the Mighty Bank of Uganda. Edward.
Thank you very much, moderator. My colleagues going around sharing some leaflets that have more information on the funds that we are administering as Bank of Uganda on behalf of government. SBF, or Small Business Fund, is a government scheme whereby you borrow at 10% through your commercial banks, credit institutions, or some of the large circles that are now being supervised by Bank of Uganda. You have up to 4 years to pay up, with a grace period of up to 1 year. In addition to that, you can borrow up to 500 million Uganda shillings. So this adequately covers the micro and small and medium enterprises in the country. Who are the participants? The scheme is a partnership between government, Bank of Uganda, and the private sector. The private sector in this case are the commercial banks, the SACCOs, and credit institutions. The participants in this scheme, we call them participating financial institutions. Now, for the commercial banks, we have so far a total of over 30 institutions that are participating in these schemes. That is SBF as well as SCF, the Agricultural Credit Facility. That includes the Uganda Development Bank. It's also a participant in this scheme. In terms of which particular institutions, the leaflets are listing those institutions, but I'll mention a few of the institutions, such as Centenary Bank is a participant, KCB is a participant, Stanbic Bank is a participant, Opportunity Bank, Pride Bank, Pearl Bank, Housing Finance Bank, all government affiliated banking institutions are participants. So I really think that all of us within this hall and outside are covered. These have a wider reach across the country. Wherever our people are, they can easily walk into a branch and actually apply for these funds. What is the overriding requirement, as the CAO has requested us to provide? The most important question that your institution will ask is your ability to pay back the money. And how do they assess this? They look at your bank statement and see how you have been performing. You may have had a history of borrowing or not, but they will satisfy themselves that this particular borrower will be able to pay back this money. Now, we have another category, again, to address some of the limitations we have within our communities. We have what we call block allocations. Block allocations we utilize what they call group guarantees. Different individuals come together, they form a group and apply for a facility. They have given a breakdown. We are 20 people, so and so is taking $1 million, another one is taking 5 million, another is taking so much million. These have a limit of up to 20 million Uganda shillings. Now, group guarantees fall under what we call alternative collateral. You may not be a landed borrower. You don't have a chivanja, you don't have a plot of land, but as part of the group, you are guaranteeing that facility.
Is that the social collateral?
You could call it, yeah, other people could refer it as social collateral. Now, we are also going into, again, within the alternative collateral, you have your cows. You can have them as your collateral. You have a car. You can have it as alternative collateral. Again, I saw one of our participants in that, one of our partners in that is also present here. Oh, I missed them. That is the Uganda Bureau the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, through the registration of movable property. So you can utilize this as alternative collateral. What does this mean? It means that for, let's say, our leaders, community leaders, you can now mobilize your people, put them together in different groups, have some sort of governance around them, and encourage them to borrow so that they can change their situation, their financial situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And UDB is at the back. They have a major booth. I suspect you may want to pass by and get some information, or they can distribute leaflets to ensure that all this basket of funds and how they can be accessed is available. Now let me go to the taxman, Judo Cheng, to respond to some of the questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And for the question, I will not limit it to only the tea industry. It's generally about struggling sectors and how does government come in to support. It is true that, yes, that URA implements tax law, but it's not, we don't stop only there in implementing tax law. If you notice in the URA Act, we also advise government, specifically Ministry of Finance, in policy formulation. And I happen to actively participate in this. So if we have any areas where we are struggling with the policy issues that might be creating suffocation of industry, generally the process is we pick those ideas, and every year, because we go through a policy review process, we can table those issues, specific issues, and look for all of incentivizing those sectors that are generally struggling. And now when you go to the specific issues that were being raised by Honorable, unfortunately I didn't get his name, but I'll continue, I'll get it later. I realized that he seems to have specific issues with the tea industry or the tea sector. I know the tea sector has taken a beating in the export market, and so if it takes a beating at home, then the industry really can collapse. So it's important that we hold this industry, because with the plantation agriculture generally, what my knowledge is that if farmers get frustrated and they cut it down, getting back up takes a very long time again. So in principle, I know that raw tea actually doesn't attract VAT, the supply. So I believe there is a certain pain in there that maybe is not coming out clearly. I wouldn't expect someone who is harvesting raw tea, supplying it to the factory, to be charged VAT, in principle. But I think we could engage after this to speak out the specific pains, then we can develop a solution from those specific pains. Additionally, we have a booth for anyone behind that has a number of people with expertise in certain areas that could hear this out. Then we can raise these issues. If there are issues of misinformation, because sometimes there could be issues of misinformation, we can address them. Then the issues that may need some policy reform, we can commit to support that policy reform. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and Honorable, make sure you have a breakfast meeting with him such that you thresh out the issues. And I think the Honorable from Terego will also need to sit with Canon Toramie such that procurement issues are discussed. So Toramie, some direct issues did come to you. In a summary, quickly respond.
Thank you, Morris. I wanted to seek for indulgence that I also get some technical input in response from my parent, Minister of Finance, on two areas. Honorable Joy's concern in terms of why SEGO money is not being disbursed, and SAGE, why SAGE money is still very low. Then if that is done, then I can proceed. But also, in the first Honorable Joy, the 15% for special interest group, I'm glad you're in Parliament now, because the guidance was provided by Parliament in the PPD Act as amended in 2021. The focus was only put to youth, women, and persons with disability. Your predecessors appealed to us, we refer them to Parliament, so when the amendment of the PPD Act comes, I think that all the persons can also be included in that provision. Herman, maybe this is also, I push it also to my parent, domestic areas and budget allocations. I think Herman asked about that. Bernard asked about the quality of our local providers. I want to assure you, Bernard, that we must start from somewhere. During COVID, we didn't have foreign companies. We didn't have, we were supposed to use our local companies, and we worked. So we must develop the capacity of our local companies and our local providers. And this is what, that is the objective of these reservation schemes. First of all, we are training them. Secondly, above those thresholds I mentioned, for example, above 45 billion, and this contract is awarded to a foreign company, they must subcontract a minimum of 30% to a local company, implying it is capacity building and skilling of our local companies. But again, there is also a provision in this reservation scheme that every contract above 5 billion must attach graduate trainees. This is also intended to skilling our graduate engineers. So don't lose hope, we must do it. Lastly, Honorable Madam Teego, we are going to, there is no worry, by the way. The reforms that you are talking about in public procurement are welcome. You must have had a team led by PSST in terms of reforms in public procurement to make them lean, efficient, and uncorruptible. And that is what we are talking about. And these reforms definitely will involve soft reforms that we can do ourselves, but also those that will come to Parliament that will require legal amendment, the PPD amendment, the PPD Act amendment. But I want to tell you now, and related to Moderator Morris, what you asked about, efficiency, we are handling that under soft reforms, digitalization. I think you are aware that we are automating the procurement process, and that will help in terms of awarding contracts timely. But also this digitalization, the electronic government procurement, we also have a module on contract management, meaning that those cost variations, time variations are going to be limited. But also, I want maybe my colleagues, the accounting officers, that DPP has given us prosecution powers as PPDA, and we are effectively strengthening our monitoring function so that those non-performing office bearers then can be held responsible or put into law. If we delay procurement process, for example, just at evaluation has a statutory time frame of 20 working days. If we delay it, it is an offense. But because these offenses we have been putting it to DPP, they don't look at them as serious cases really, when they have this case backlog of terrorism, of whatever, you know, murder and whatever. But we are going to do them ourselves. But also, what we have capped, starting next financial year, especially for government agencies that are here, we have come up with a standardized unit cost of a road and a bridge. How that framework, we are disseminating it, we are popularizing it. PSST is going to give a circular starting next year, if you are a kilometer of a road in Western region is supposed to be costing, say, 2 billion, and you spend 3 billion as an accounting officer, you will be held responsible. And these standardized unit rates are per region, because a road in Isoro is not the same road as Nakasongola here, a kilometer of a road, because it's a different thing. A road in a swamp, Rubiji Swamp, Northern Bypass, can't be the same as a road in Ichira, where there is no swamp. So those standardized unit rates are going to be published based on specifications that were launched by Minister of Works this financial year. The same spirit, we have standardized specifications for common use items, computers, stationery, tires, vehicles. So those standardized unit rates, based on the specifications, also are going to curb the cost overruns. I thank you.
Thank you very much. These are major policy shifts that I think work for the people in terms of costs and all of that. But it's very interesting that now we're going to have prosecution powers, because it is going to help. You remember before we had the commercial courts, the business community was suffering because of backlog. And now with the prosecution powers, PPDA, matters related to procurement are going to be settled very quickly. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Quickly, let me go to Faith to make your concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. As part of the concluding remarks, I'd like to encourage everyone here that the opportunities that I was talking about do not just end with the flagship projects. So the flagship projects are going to enable Uganda export about 1.6 billion barrels of oil. What we have in place, the amount of oil that Uganda has in the ground is 6.5 billion. So with just 1.6, you find that that is about just 20% is what we are talking about that is going to start this coming financial year. So if you've gotten any skills, if you are not able to participate in the development phase for these coming projects, you have another opportunity to find out the three things that I talked about. What is the value chain of the oil and gas sector? How do you start to prepare if you're looking to participate in the upcoming projects? And who are the key players and what services do they need? So just keep that in mind as we continue harnessing the oil and gas that we have under the ground. Thank you.
Wow. Put your hands together for this wonderful panel. Very informative, very articulate, very direct. And they didn't fear the questions. They responded really ably. And they promised one other thing, that they are not leaving immediately, that if you have something else, follow up with them, engage with them. They are open to share information. I will have, let me release you, ladies and gentlemen. There? No, because they were here a bit earlier. But thank you very much.
Excuse me, panelists. Morrison, before you release them, we have some gifts for the panelists. Appreciation of the wonderful work, the ongoing efforts in your various departments, but most importantly, for gracing this occasion.
Canon Bena, this one is supposed to be declared. Thank you very much, my panel. I will have the next panel, because we said this is a working breakfast, sharing ideas. Let me have the Uganda Investment Authority. I've seen Director Peter Muramira here. The Parish Development Model Secretariat, the PDM. Somebody from the PDM. Somebody from GROW Project. GROW project is this project that I've heard about a lot. And I think it empowers business, private people, small, medium enterprises with money and skills and all of that, and especially focusing on women. Do I have somebody from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development? Oh, you're still answering the GROW? Okay. So PDM is missing. Yeah, it's okay. Can I have somebody from PELAM, the civil society organization that works with smallholder farmers? Me, I'm no longer smallholder. Thank you very much. So today we have been really government heavy. So that's why I will start with the civil society organization to kind of, infuse the real people voice. So James is from PELAM. So as a civil society organization, we understand there are many areas definitely that need to be prioritized. What do you think government should focus on specifically for the smallholder farmers?
Well, thank you very much, Morrison. Good afternoon. Is it good afternoon? Yeah, good afternoon, dear audience and my fellow panelists. To the question, I am coming in from the civil society space, and that is the Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Uganda. And I'm very privileged to be representing the civil society actors to speak for and on behalf of all the farmers of this country. And the question is very right. Responding to the theme and the question, and to the other voices that came earlier, I think what government needs to do now is to see how best can we support